This presentation will provide a brief overview of herd status, as well as proposed changes for the upcoming 2025 hunting season for the Green River Wildlife Biologist District. Specifically, we will cover proposed changes for the 2025 hunting seasons for antelope, deer, and elk, and we'll touch briefly on the 2 moose hunt areas that are in the Green River District. If you are interested in proposed seasons for other species, you can also find season proposal presentations for small game, upland game birds, waterfowl, wild turkey, wild bison, as well as Chapter 2, General Hunting Regulations on the Game and Fish website. As we go through the season tables for each herd unit, proposed changes from 2024's seasons are highlighted in blue text, and deletions compared to 2024 will be in red with strike through. To give you an idea of what part of Wyoming we will be talking about, this map shows where the Green River District sits in the southwest corner of the state. The map also shows the names and boundaries of the other biologist districts if you're interested in viewing any of the season proposal presentations from any of the other districts. So we will get started with the proposed changes for Chapter 5, which is antelope. The first herd that we will talk about is the Sublette pronghorn herd. This herd occupies most of the Green River Basin from Jackson and Pinedale down the South Pass, over the Kemmer, and then down to Rock Springs. This herd had been slightly under objective for quite some time, but had been slowly growing back up into its objective range. And after the 2022 season, the population was estimated at being just a little bit over 43,000 pronghorn, which put it about 10% under objective, but within the subjective range. Then, following the severe winter conditions this herd experienced during the 22-23 winter, the herd was roughly cut in half, with only about 20,000 pronghorn making it through that winter. The 2024 modeled postseason population estimate for the Sublette herd was about 25,000 pronghorn, which, while still roughly 48% below a subjective of 48,000 pronghorn, it was a pretty significant improvement from the 20,500 pronghorn that were estimated to be left in the herd after the 22-23 winter. Observed preseason buck ratios for the Sublette herd in 2024 were 56 bucks per 100 does herd unit wide, which puts the observed ratios for this herd within the recreational management criteria of between 30 and 59 bucks per 100 does. The observed fawn ratio for the Sublette herd was 68 fawns per 100 does in 2024, which compares to only 47 fawns per 100 does seen in 2023, and to a long-term average for this herd of 64 fawns per 100 does. The low fawn ratio seen in 2023 was almost certainly a holdover from the impacts of the 22-23 winter and the resulting poor body condition of does that experienced the severe winter conditions that herd saw that year. Given the observed fawn ratios seen in 2024, this herd should grow somewhat next year, but it's going to take several years of good fawn production for the population to fully recover from the 22-23 winter. This slide shows the table for all of the Sublette herd, but the hunt areas that are within the Green River region are hunt areas 92, 93, and 96. The proposal for the 2025 hunting season for the Sublette herd contains only minor changes from what was offered in the herd unit in 2024. The first proposed change is some slight increases in the number of Type 1 licenses in hunt areas 91 and 92. This change was proposed due to increasing buck-to-doe ratios and the more robust population sizes observed in those hunt areas in 2024. In addition to the increases in Type 1 licenses, 2 hunt areas in the herd unit, hunt areas 91 and 93, are also proposing to add a small number of Type 7 licenses for the 2025 season. These Type 7 licenses are being proposed to address growing numbers of pronghorn on irrigated lands in some areas. These areas have had significant damage issues in the past, and growing pronghorn numbers have landowners concerned about future damage in those areas. Beyond those changes, the 2025 hunting season for the Sublette herd was identical to the season that was offered in 2024, with the northern portions of the herd continuing to offer very conservative seasons with a very limited number of licenses in order to help the herd recover from the losses it incurred during the 2022-23 winter. The other pronghorn herd that we have to talk about is South Rock Springs pronghorn, which is south of Interstate 80 between the Flaming Gorge Reservoir and Highway 430. This herd has an objective range of between 5,200 and 7,800 pronghorn postseason, and the herd has been hovering right around the lower end of its objective range for several years, usually being estimated at somewhere around plus or minus 5,000 animals, at least since 2019, when extremely low fawn ratios were seen in the herd, which caused the population estimate to go from being slightly above objective to slightly below objective. Because of that, doe harvest was reduced significantly in 2020 and then removed completely following the 22-23 winter, when the population took another dip, going down to roughly 4,300 pronghorn. However, this herd has already started to recover, with the 2024 postseason population estimate coming in at roughly 5,600 pronghorn, and the significantly better fawn ratio of 62 fawns per 100 does seen in this herd in 2024 should result in some population growth for this herd, with the model estimating that the herd may be at a little bit over 6,000 pronghorn next year. Observed buck ratios in the South Rock Springs herd have been at the lower end of the recreational management range and had been declining, especially from the period from 2020 to 2023, when the observed buck to doe ratio declined from 39 bucks per 100 does to only 33 bucks per 100 does. This trend was especially apparent in Hunt Area 112, which went from 43 bucks per 100 does in 2020 to only 32 bucks per 100 does in 2023. Fortunately, a couple years of reduced Type 1 license issuance rates during 2023 and 2024 appeared to have halted this trend, with the 2024 preseason buck ratio coming in at 44 bucks per 100 does for the herd unit as a whole, and 39 bucks per 100 does for Hunt Area 112. The proposed 2025 hunting season for the South Rock Springs herd maintains a very similar conservative season structure to what was offered in the herd unit in both 2023 and 2024. The only change proposed for the 2025 season is a slight increase in Type 1 licenses in Hunt Area 59, going from 125 to 150 licenses. The increase in the observed buck ratio in 2024 suggests that a modest increase in Type 1 licenses could be accommodated in Hunt Area 59, which had an observed buck to doe ratio of 50 bucks per 100 does in 2024. Those are all of the antelope hunt areas in the Green River District, so now we will move on to Chapter 6, which is deer. The first of the two deer herds that we have to talk about is Sublette deer. And the only portion of the Sublette deer herd that is in the Green River region is Hunt Area 131. Hunt Area 131 is the least productive portion of the Sublette herd, and it's largely just winter range for deer that are summering up north in the Hoback Basin or in the southern Wind River Range. Overall, the Sublette herd is under objective, with the current estimate still being at around 19,000 deer compared to a subjective of 32,000 deer. Herd unit wide, the observed ratios in 2024 were 76 fawns per 100 does, which is above last year's fawn ratio of 60 fawns and also above the 5-year average of 67 fawns per 100 does. Observed buck ratios in the Sublette herd in 24 were 34 bucks per 100 does, which is pretty close to the 5-year average of 35. And those ratios are for the herd unit as a whole. The ratios in Hunt Area 131 would probably be quite a bit lower. But since we fly classification surveys in December, and we've already had a lot of deer from the north move into the hunt area, it's really hard to tell what our ratios for the resident deer are. But from some research that's been going on in the herd unit, we know that resident deer in the desert have quite a bit lower fawn ratios than the migratory deer that are summering up in the more productive country in the mountains. The proposed 2025 season for Hunt Area 131 is very similar to the seasons that have been run in the hunt area for the last several years. The only significant change is that the 2025 season proposal does include the addition of some Type 7 licenses in the hunt area west of the Blue Rim Road. This is a license that we've had in the hunt area before, and it's designed to help alleviate some damage issues that producers are having in alfalfa fields along the Green River, where a couple of pivots have 200 plus deer living in them year-round. The other deer herd that is in the Green River District is the South Rock Springs deer herd, which consists of hunt areas 101 and 102. Like most of the other deer herds in the West, the South Rock Springs herd is currently under objective and has been for a long time. We do have a hard time modeling this population, and we can tell from some of the other metrics that we look at that the model for this herd is probably underestimating its number sum. But we do know that it's under objective and that it has been under objective since that was set back in 2013. Now, while observed fawn ratios in this herd in the recent past have been below what we'd like to see in this population, the observed fawn ratio for the last 3 years have been a significant improvement, with 61 fawns being observed in 2022, 52 fawns per 100 does in 2023, and 53 fawns per 100 does being seen in 2024. Now, fawn ratios in this range haven't been consistently seen in this herd since before 2015, and that gives us some hope that this herd may be able to regain some of the ground that it's lost over the last decade or so. The observed buck ratio from the 2024 classification flights was 30 bucks per 100 does. This ratio brings this herd back into the special management objective range of 30 to 45 bucks per 100 does, and is the same ratio that was seen back in 2022. Now, while the overall deer numbers may be down and buck ratios are not as high as we'd like to see them, hunters were still able to select for older age class bucks during the 2024 season, with the average age of harvested bucks based on hunters submitted 2 samples in 2024 being 5.6 years old, which is the same age that was seen in 2023 and is only slightly below the 5.7-year-old average that was seen in 2022. For the 2025 season, we are proposing no changes for the South Rock Springs deer herd. Back in 2020, the number of licenses available in Hunt Area 102 was reduced, largely because from 2016 to 2019, we had several years of low fawn ratios that we knew was going to result in a smaller number of bucks in those age classes. So we figured that starting in about 2021, the number of 4 and 5-year-old bucks in the population was going to be lower because of those years of lower fawn ratios. We reduced license numbers again in 2022 because of lower observed buck ratios in the herd. So now we're hopefully coming through on the other side of that trough of lower numbers of 4, 5, and 6-year-old bucks. We should be seeing a larger cohort of those prime age bucks available in the herd unit. And this seems to be supported by the average age of harvested bucks being around 5.5 for the last several years. The next chapter that we will be covering is Chapter 7, Elk. And we have two herds that we will be talking about, Steamboat Elk, or Hunt Area 100, and South Rock Springs Elk, which is Hunt Areas 30, 31, and 32. The first elk herd that we will talk about is the Steamboat Elk herd, which is made up of only one Hunt Area 100. The postseason population objective for Area 100 is 1,200 elk, with a range of 960 elk to 1,440 elk. And currently the population estimate for this herd is right around 1,200 elk. This is the first time that this herd has been estimated to be at its objective since around 2016, when the herd went from being slightly under objective to significantly over objective when it appears that a number of elk moved into the hunt area and just stayed there. Since then, license numbers across the herd unit were significantly increased to move this herd back towards its objective range. During that population reduction phase, over 5,100 elk were harvested across the herd unit. And after nearly a decade of increased harvest, data from classification flights, along with field observations, comments from hunters and landowners, as well as the model estimate, indicates that this herd is nearing or has reached its population objective. During the postseason classification flight conducted in December 2024, a total of 939 elk were classified in the herd unit, and this compares to 960 elk classified in 2023 and 1,205 elk counted in 2021. Of those 939 elk classified in 2024, 502 of those were adult cows, 163 were calves, and 274 of the classified elk were bulls. Of those 274 bulls, 89 were yearlings, and 185 of them were 2-year-old or older bulls. So the resulting ratios from that flight were 55 bulls per 100 cows and 32 calves per 100 cows. Based on hunters submitted 2 samples, the average age of bulls harvested by Type 1 license holders in the Steamboat Elk herd in 2024 was 6.6 years old, which is up slightly from last year's reported average of 6.1 years old, but is generally in line with reported average age of harvested bulls over the last several years from this herd. After many years of significantly increased harvest in the Steamboat Elk herd, the 2025 season proposal includes reductions in several of the license types offered across the herd unit. The most significant of those changes is a proposal for reductions in the number of Type 4 and Type 5 licenses, taking the number of those licenses from a total of 425 to 250 licenses. In addition to reducing the number of Type 4 and 5 licenses across the herd unit, the number of Type 7 licenses valid for the south central portion of the hunt area are also proposed to be reduced in number, going from 100 to 25. We are also proposing to remove the Type 6 licenses valid for the southeast portion of Hunt Area 100 from the license offering completely. Over the last couple of years, comments from cow hunters, both from field contacts made during the hunting season and from the harvest survey, increasingly indicate that cow elk hunters are having a difficult time even locating cow elk in the herd unit. Along with this, the harvest survey has shown a decrease in harvest success rates for the type 4, 5, 6, and 7 licenses, with the 2024 success rates being only in the mid 60% range for the full price licenses, and only 29 and 52% success for the type 6 and 7 licenses, respectively. While at first glance those success rates don't seem shockingly low for an elk herd, given the open nature and abundant public land found in the steamboat herd unit, we typically see success statistics for this herd more similar to what you'd expect for a pronghorn herd, with success rates usually running above 80%. Because of this, license types targeting the female segment of the population are proposed to be reduced across the herd unit to transition the management of this herd from a population reduction phase to more of a population management phase. Assuming that harvest rates remain consistent with what has been observed in the past, the proposed 2025 season should harvest somewhere around 400 elk. This level of harvest should keep this population near its objective of 1,200 elk and may even further reduce this elk herd some. The other elk herd that this presentation will cover is the South Rock Springs elk herd, which is made up of hunt areas 30, 31, and 32. This herd is managed under a midwinter trend count objective as opposed to a population objective like the other herds we've talked about so far. A trend count objective was picked for this herd over a population objective because we know this herd is an interstate population and that we have a pretty significant amount of interchange between Colorado and Wyoming, and also a little bit with Utah. The way that a trend count objective works is that a 3-year average of the number of elk counted during midwinter trend count flights is used to determine if the herd is at objective or not. The objective range for this herd is a 3-year trend count average of between 800 and 1,200 elk. Since we don't have any actual dedicated midwinter trend count flights in this herd, the number of elk classified during the December classification flights is used as a surrogate trend count number. During that classification flight in 2024, a total of 748 elk were classified, with 18 of those elk being observed in Hunt Area 30, 309 elk were seen in Hunt Area 31, and 421 elk were seen in Hunt Area 32. This number brings the 3-year trend count average for this herd to 1,094 elk, which is within a subjective range of between 800 and 1,200 elk. The observed bull-to-cow ratio for the South Rock Springs herd from that December classification flight was only 25 bulls per 100 cows. And while this is an improvement from the 18 bulls per 100 cows observed in the herd unit in 2023, this is the 6th year in a row that observed bull-to-cow ratios have been at the minimum of or below the guidelines for a special management herd of between 30 and 40 bulls per 100 cows. Despite the below objective bull ratios, though, hunters were still been able to harvest mature bulls in the South Rock Springs herd. And based on hunters submitted 2 samples, the average age of harvested bulls in 2024 was 6.2 years old, which is up slightly from the 5.7 years old reported for this herd in 2022 and 2023. Along with the continued failure of this herd to meet its bull-to-cow ratio objective, 2024 saw a noticeable decrease in hunter success for both Type 1 and Type 4 licenses in Hunt Area 31. The overall success rate for Type 1 license holders was only 61%, with over 22 days per animal harvested. And the Type 4 license holders experienced only a 52% success rate on their hunts. Similar to the steamboat elk herd, given the open nature of the landscape and the amount of public lands where this elk herd lives, these harvest success rates are significantly below what is typically reported for this herd. Typically, harvest success rates of between 80 to 90% are seen on the Type 1 licenses, and while the Type 4 license success tends to be more variable, harvest success rates of between 70 to 85% are usually reported for cow hunters in this area. Along with this reduction in the reported success rates for hunters hunting in Hunt Area 31, a consistent trend in comments from the public has been that hunters have been having an increasingly difficult time locating elk in this hunt area over the last several years. And after several years of increased harvest designed to reduce elk populations in the South Rock Springs herd, indications are that the elk herd has been reduced to the point that the herd is again within its objective range, and therefore the proposal for the 2025 season is that both Type 1 and Type 4 licenses be reduced for the Little Mountain area. The department is proposing to reduce the number of Type 1 licenses in Hunt Area 31 from 50 to 40, and to reduce the number of Type 4 licenses from 175 to 100 for the same area. Finally, the last chapter that we will talk about in this presentation is Chapter 8, Moose. And we're going to just touch briefly on the two moose hunt areas that are in the Green River District, which are Hunt Areas 33 and 44. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk just real briefly about moose hunt areas 33 and 44. And these are actually in two different moose herds. Hunt Area 33 is part of the Lincoln moose herd, and Hunt Area 44 is part of the Uinta moose herd. If you're interested in some more information on those moose herds, check out the Mountain View Biologist presentation, and they'll cover some more details on those two different moose herds in that presentation. But Hunt Area 33 is essentially the Seedskedee National Wildlife Refuge on the Green River. And this is an area that we can allow for some limited moose harvest, largely because of habitat concerns with cottonwood regeneration along the river. Hunt Area 44 covers the country south of Rock Springs, between the Flaming Gorge Reservoir and the Bitter Creek Road. And this is an area that we don't really want to grow moose because of habitat concerns, along with the resident elk and mule deer populations down there. So in 2025, we are proposing to have the same moose season in Hunt Area 33 that we had in 2023 and 24, which includes 2 Type 4 antlerless moose licenses, valid for just Hunt Area 33, and 3 Type 1 any moose licenses that are valid for both Hunt Areas 33 and 44. If you would like to submit comments on these or any other proposed seasons, you can do so by going to the Game and Fish website at the address here, or you can mail in written comments to our Casper office. Just make sure to have any comments in by 5 p.m. on April 2nd. Thank you.